just got this amp in. Not really sure who built it. There's nothing on it. I have an idea, but I'm not 100% sure. But take a look at this. 16 pill sent in here to me. Let me go over. I'm kind of laughing about it because it's pretty much almost a copy of one of my amps, one of my 16 pills. So apparently somebody out there knows a little something. The only thing I can really see is the inputs look like they're Type 43s and the output looks like they're 61s. Other than that, it's not looking too shabby. I've got it fired up right now. I fired it up and it's not looking too awful bad. I'm going to check it out with a 2-pill into it here in a minute, but this is just by itself with just a radio going into it. 16 pills, still the big power supply. I got a 10-watt slug over here for reflect, and then that's a 1,000-watt slug. So just bear in mind it's a 4-watt radio going into it, so we're not going to get a whole lot out of it. But the reflect's not too bad. I mean, it's under a half of a watt. Yeah. Yeah. A little over 100. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw a 2-pill into it and see what that reflect does. Because normally when I tune out reflect in an amplifier, you don't want to do it with a barefoot radio because it's just not enough RF going into the amp to tune reflect out. I don't give a rat's ass who tells you differently. If they're telling you something different, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You need to have an amp going into it to tune out reflect. That's just the way it is. So I'll be right back. Okay, round 2. We put a little 2-pill 2290 driver into it. Got the burn meter hooked up, 10-watt slug in there. We've switched over to this meter now for reflect at the 2-pill from the 16. And this is still reflect off the radio, and then this is output watts of the 16 pill with a 1,000-watt slug in there. So what I'll do first is we'll throw off that, like I said, little 2-pill, maybe 25, reflect back at the radio. As you see, don't move. Also the radio slug, I switched that out to a 5-watt. I don't know if you can see that up in there, but it's a 5-watt. I flipped it out because I needed a 10-watt behind the 16. So we got 25, maybe almost 30. Yeah, okay. So let's flip on the 16. Initial testing. Haven't done any work for the 16, just testing it out. So that 25 transpires into a little over 200, and reflect at the radio has not changed at all. But this is the 16 pill reflect back at the 2-pill, which, as you see, is about 2.5. That's with the 2-pill going into it. So let's see what she'll do. Reflect in the corner. Now this one's output watts again. Yeah, 800, and there's the reflect at the radio. Yeah, but you see the 2-pill's not moving it at all. So that's what we got right now. I'm going to try to change some jumpers around and just see if it's a jumper thing for why this thing's knocking 10 in the corner at only 800 bird, and I'll be back. Okay, after going through a whole bunch of different coax to see if we could get this any lower, it's definitely telling me it's got an input issue. I had to put looks about an 18-footer on it to get it somewhat right, but this is just testing purposes. Same thing, output actually went up, reflect at the radio still the same, and this is still the same 10-watt slug. So as you see, it's about a little over half of a watt. Our dead key did change. It did go up, and of course that's what's going to happen when you get your reflect lower. Your watts come up. That's how it works. Anybody tells you any differently, they're fools. And of course that's the radio right there. So it didn't change a lick. And yeah, now Now we can put the 1000 in the corner. Here's what the reflex doing at the 2-pill. Yeah. So we're under 4 watts, but it took me an 18-foot jumper to get that down, which is way too much jumper to be putting in between 2 boxes. Like I said, little 2-pill. Nothing extravagant, but that's what we had to do. So we're going to get into this thing and do a little tuning on it and go with it from there. And we'll be back. Okay, we did a little tune on this. Now we got a 6-foot jumper between the boxes. I think we can do a little bit more with it. There's a few things on here I'm not real crazy about. I'm going to show you those in a minute. But 2-pill again, 10-watt slug from Reflect. Going into a 16-pill. This reflect meter. Almost 400 now. A little under a watt. Test. Audio. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Breaker. See how it barely moves? That's kind of what you want an amplifier to do. You don't want no swing forward or anything like that, because your resonance doesn't pretty much go out the antenna the way it should be. So anybody tells you any different, they're crazy. Strictly bird meters. As you see, radio's still the same. Radio ain't changed none. Still got the 5-watt slug at the radio. You know, for examples, let me just try something here. I don't normally tune with radios. Never tune, you know, when it comes to these big amps with the radio. You can't do that. That's just not the way to tune an amp. You got to tune under a load. Somebody that tells you differently is an idiot. It's not bad for what this is. I'm going to suggest a couple things to the customer when he gets here. But as you see what happens with the radio, and this is why you got to tune it under a load. Look what the reflex done. Now I got a 5-watt slug in there, so we're about 2 1/4 on the reflect. That's just the radio going into a 16-pill. Now, anybody in their right mind should know this, that each one of those transistors takes a certain amount of wattage to get it to go. Now you're talking 16 of them times that same input, so a barefoot radio is just not going to do it. So when these guys are out here making YouTube videos and showing you guys with a barefoot radio going into it and this and that and the reflex real low, they're fucking crazy. They done lost their marbles. You know, you got to tune it. Like I said, they're crazy because watch this. This is back at the radio. Like I said, it's a little over 2. And we're going to take this and I'm going to dial it in. I'm going to dial it in. Now watch this. That's a 5-watt slug, and that's a 16-pill. So as you see, I've dialed it all the way down for no reflect, which is pretty daggone good. Oh yeah. Little forward swing, but that's at the radio. No driver in line. I've unhooked the driver. So let's do this. All I'm going to do, I'm going to hook the driver back in line. Now, somebody making YouTube videos out there showing you with just the radio going into it and it's got reflect and blah blah blah. Well, it's going to. You're talking a lot of pills and the radio is just not going to put out enough to get it going. So now our 2 pills back in line. Let's get the dead key about where it needs to be. Okay. We're back at about 350. And as you see, there's our reflect on the 10-watt slug. It's at 2 watts. Oh, yeah. And swinging up to 9. Now, I'll take this guy. Oh, let me find my tuning. Now, oh yeah. Now that's under a watt. I'd like to see it a lot lower than that because usually I'll use a 1/2 watt slug in here. And the thing about this is what you have to think about is you see the 16 pills not reacting at the radio at all through the 2 pill. Okay? That's reflect. This meter right here is reflect at the radio. That's output watts. That's reflect at the 2 pill. Now, if it was me, I don't want all that reflect coming back hitting my driver. So, you know, for somebody to sit here and make videos and show with just the radio going into it and this and that, they're so full of it. They're full on themselves is what it is. You don't want all that reflect coming back on this driver, because next thing you know it, you're toasting drivers. That's what you're going to be doing. Amps need to be tuned under load. That's how it is. As you see, we don't need no coils, none of that kind of crap in the box to get them resonated, or resonant, as they say. So, I got some more to do on this box. I got to suggest to the customer. Not real crazy about a couple things, like this coax that's exposed up underneath the power lead. I don't like the power lead just right here in the center, going on a piece of bus bar that's nothing but copper clad. Something needs to be done with that. You know, normally I like to spread out the power leads with 8 gauge to each 4-pill section. Divides the power up a lot evenly throughout the amplifier, makes each section get the power that it requires. Things like that you don't see unless you have a scope and you can check these things. I'm gonna do a couple other tests on it and see how she rocks and rolls, but I'm gonna make a couple suggestions to this customer on what else we could do with this thing. But his big concern was his reflect at his driver. He was seeing a lot of reflect at the driver. You know, he's one of those guys that's a little bit smarter than the rest, thinking that, you know, we don't want reflect hitting the driver. So, hope you enjoyed this. This is part 1, and there should be a part 2 once I talk to the customer. We'll see you later, guys.